Disciplined for talking back, the sun streamed through the tall classroom windows, casting long stripes of light across rows of wooden desks. Students bent over their notebooks, pens scratching steadily as the lecture continued. At the front of the room, a middle-aged woman in a neat gray blouse and black skirt stood poised, chalk in hand, writing formulas on the board with practiced ease. She carried herself with authority, her blonde hair pinned back neatly, her voice calm but firm as she explained each point. Everyone knew she demanded respect and order. In her classroom, attention was not optional, it was required. At one of the desks near the back, a young woman sat slouched in her chair. She was 20 years old, dressed in the standard blue uniform, crisp shirt tucked into a pleated skirt, tie hanging loosely around her neck. Her brown hair framed her face, and her pen tapped idly against the desk. Her name was Emma. And today, she was restless. She sighed loudly, exaggerated enough for those around her to notice. A few students glanced at her nervously, but no one dared say anything. Emma rolled her eyes dramatically as the teacher's voice carried on, steady and unbroken. Finally, the teacher turned, chalk still in hand, at Emma. She said, her eye narrowing slightly. "Would you like to share what's so amusing?" Emma smirked, leaning back in her chair. "Oh, nothing. Just wondering how long it's going to take to get through this again." "You've explained it a dozen times already." A murmur ran through the classroom. Some students gasped quietly, others sat frozen, their pens suspended in midair. No one ever dared to speak to the teacher like that. The teacher's expression hardened. She set the chalk down deliberately, brushing her hands together as though to rid them of dust. "Stand up," she ordered. Emma pushed her chair back noisily and stood, arms folded across her chest, chin lifted defiantly. "Repeat what you just said," the teacher demanded. Emma shrugged. "I said you've explained this a dozen times. Maybe if you explained it better, people wouldn't be so confused." Her voice was laced with sarcasm, her brown eyes glittering with challenge. The room went deathly silent. Even the ticking clock on the wall seemed to hesitate. The teacher took a slow step forward, her heels clicking against the tiled floor. "That is not how you address your teacher," she said evenly. "You will apologize." Emma laughed softly, shaking her head. "For what? Telling the truth?" A collective intake of breath filled the room. Several students ducked their heads, afraid to meet the teacher's eyes. The teacher's face remained composed, but her tone dropped to steel. "Enough. Talking back once is bad enough. Continuing after being warned is a serious offense." Emma's smile faltered slightly, but she covered it with another eye roll. "Whatever." The teacher walked to her desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out a long, thin cane. She didn't wave it or raise her voice. She simply held it with practiced calm, letting the weight of its presence speak for itself. A ripple of unease swept through the classroom. Everyone knew what that cane meant. Front of the room, the teacher commanded. Emma's defiance wavered. She glanced around, realizing every eye in the room was on her. Her cheeks burned, but with reluctant steps, she moved forward, her blue uniform rustling slightly as she walked. "Stand straight," the teacher said, her voice controlled, carrying a gravity that silenced even Emma's arrogance. Emma obeyed, though her jaw clenched stubbornly. The teacher looked her directly in the eye. "You think it is clever to mock, to talk back, to try and humiliate the one guiding you? Respect is not optional. Today, you will learn that lesson." The cane swished lightly through the air as the teacher raised it. Emma's bravado melted. Each swish was a promise of discipline, sharp and undeniable. The classroom remained utterly silent. The strokes came, not described in number or detail, but each one cut through the air with authority. Emma flinched, her earlier smirk gone, replaced by tight-lipped regret. her eyes watered, and she struggled to keep her composure in front of her classmates. The embarrassment stung worse than anything else. When it was over, the teacher lowered the cane and set it back on her desk with quiet finality. "Go back to your seat," she instructed. Emma's steps were small, her face flushed, her blue uniform neat, but her confidence shattered. She sank into her chair, staring down at her desk, no longer tapping her pen or rolling her eyes. The teacher surveyed the class. "Let this be a reminder. Talking back, mocking, and disrespect have no place here. Discipline exists because without it, there is no order, no learning, and no growth." No one dared to speak. The air was heavy with the weight of the lesson. Emma blinked rapidly, her vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall. She stole a glance at the teacher, who was already returning to the chalkboard, resuming the lesson as though nothing had happened. The class, still stunned, bent to their notebooks again. Emma sat still, her pride bruised, but deep inside, something shifted. She thought back to her words, the sarcasm, the smirk, the way she had tried to belittle the teacher. In her mind it had seemed clever, a way to get a laugh, to ease her boredom. But in reality, it had been cruel, disrespectful, and beneath her. She looked around. Some classmates avoided her gaze, while others shot her quick glances filled with sympathy, or worse, judgment. Her stomach knotted. For the first time, Emma realized how her actions reflected not only on herself but on the respect of the entire classroom. She had crossed a line, and the consequences had been swift. Her hand tightened around her pen. Slowly, she began writing again, focusing on the notes in front of her. The lesson continued, the teacher's calm authority undisturbed, but Emma was no longer the same. The sting of discipline lingered, not just on her, but in her mind, in her heart. When the bell rang at last, students rose quietly, filing out with hushed voices. Emma lingered, gathering her things slowly. The teacher approached, her expression softer now. "Emma," she said quietly. Emma looked up, shame heavy in her chest. "Yes, ma'am?" "You have potential," the teacher said. "But arrogance will destroy it. Respect builds character. I expect better from you." Emma swallowed, her throat tight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The words were sincere this time, free of sarcasm. The teacher gave a brief nod, then moved on. Emma slung her bag over her shoulder, her steps heavy as she left the classroom. Outside, the hallway buzzed with noise, but her mind was quiet. The sting of humiliation remained, but so did a newfound determination. Never again, she thought. Never again would she let her pride make her foolish.